Hello everyone. In this lecture we are going to see what is induction heating, what is the principle employed in induction heating, what are the different methods of induction heating and their advantages as well as applications, right? So generally induction heating process makes use of currents induced by the electromagnetic action in the charge to be heated, right? Whatever the material is to be heated, when some amount of electric current is passed through that, we know that some amount of electromagnetic action takes place, right? A magnetic field comes into existence, due to which the amount of heat required will be transferred to the charge to be heated. So that is nothing but the principle of transformer working or not, right? So here the primary is given with an AC source, is supplied with an AC source which is magnetically coupled to the charge, right? Here charge acts as secondary, so it is nothing but short circuited secondary of single turn. That means secondary consists of single turn. This is our transformer now, where primary is supplied with an AC source and secondary is nothing but our charge, but it has single turn, right? So now when AC voltage is applied to the primary, it induces some voltage in the secondary, that is nothing but our charge. Now this secondary current heats up the charge in the same way as in an as a work of electricity, and while passing through a resistance, right? That means the charge acts as some resistance or conducting material, I can tell, which has some amount of resistance, right? Now if the supplied voltage to the primary is V, or the voltage induced is V, in the charge is V, and the resistance of the charge is R, then heat produced will be what? V square by R. That means the amount of heat produced due to induction heating is what? V square by R. So to develop the heat sufficient to melt the charge, the resistance, whatever it is, what it must be? It must be minimum, so that the heat produced is maximum. Right? So resistance must be minimum, charge resistance must be minimum, so that heat produced is high, right? So resistance of the charge is low will be possible only in case of metals, and voltage must be higher, right? Voltage must be higher for high amount of heat produced, right? So which is obtained by employing higher flux and higher frequency. So to obtain higher voltage, we need higher flux as well as higher frequency. So magnetic materials can be easily treated than non-magnetic materials because of their higher permeability, right? So by using induction heating, magnetic materials can be easily treated to achieve high voltages, right? Or to achieve high amount of heat produced, right? Here is a case to be noted, that is when the charge to be heated is non-magnetic material, what happens, right? So if it is non-magnetic material, for non-magnetic material, right, if you observe for a non-magnetic material, heat is generated due to eddy current losses, right? But if you see a magnetic material, there comes into existence both eddy current losses as well as hysteresis losses, right? So the hysteresis losses are proportional to the frequency, right? H are proportional to frequency, whereas eddy current losses will be proportional to what? Frequency square, right? That means this proportionality will be valid only for certain amount of frequency only, for low frequencies only. But when you go for higher frequencies, what happens? The effect of this frequency, these eddy current losses and hysteresis losses will be seen only up to certain level of frequencies. After certain level of frequencies, that means if the frequency is so high, we know that if the temperature of that material rises above certain temperature, then the magnetic material gets saturated. That means it no longer acts as a magnet. So in that case, again, there is no effect of hysteresis. So hysteresis losses only can be seen if it acts as a magnetic material. That means now again only eddy current losses comes into picture, right? This is what is happening at high frequencies. right? Due to hysteresis losses becoming very small as compared to eddy current losses, right? When high temperatures attained by the charge at high frequencies, when the material ceases to possess magnetic properties, right? So now at this point of time, we can say that that higher the supply frequency, lower is the depth of penetration. What is this lower depth of penetration now? So depth of penetration is nothing but for how much extent the heat is being passed through the particular material. That is called depth of penetration. It has been observed that higher the supply frequency, lower is the depth of penetration. Depth of penetration is inversely proportional to the supply frequency. So it comes like depth is proportional to under root of 1 by f up to a certain extent, right? So it decreases to such an extent at higher frequencies that, so initially if you see, it was proportional to f or it was proportional to f square, but if the frequencies are still going on increasing, then the depth of penetration comes like it is under root of 1 by f, right? So now coming to the different types of induction furnaces, there are basically two types of induction furnaces. They are core type or low frequency induction furnace, as well as coreless type or high frequency induction furnaces, right? So now coming to core type induction furnace. So this core type induction furnace is mainly works on the principle of electromagnetic induction, right? So the classification is again done into direct core type, vertical core type or indirect core type. So now let us see each one of these induction furnace in detail one by one. So coming to direct core type induction furnace. So this works just like a two-winding transformer if you observe, right? It consists of a transformer in which charge to be heated forms a single turn secondary, short circuited secondary. This is the single turn short circuited secondary. So it is nothing but this is called a hearth. Hearth is nothing but where the metal is melted, that portion, that part or the pot like structure is called a hearth. This is what the hearth is, right? So it is in a circular form. We are seeing the transverse of it, right? So this is charge to be heated. This forms a single turn short circuited secondary and is magnetically coupled to the primary with the help of the iron core, right? So when there is no molten material in this ring, so if there is no charge, molten material, that means charge which is to be heated. If there is no molten material, that means the secondary is open circuited or not. So if it is open circuited, that means there is no secondary current forming, right? So that means the furnace will not be starting, will not be able to start. The furnace will be able to start only if secondary is short circuited, right? So there will be a path for the current to flow. So for the furnace to start, initially there must be some amount of charge inside the secondary, inside the hearth or annular ring, whatever you say, inside the secondary, right? That means we cannot start a direct core type induction motor without the charge, right? There must be a charge initially, right, to start the furnace. Now, since the magnetic coupling between the primary and secondary is very poor, which results in high leakage and very low power factor, right? So in order to compensate the effect of increased leakage reactance, high leakage reactance, low primary frequency of the order of 10 Hz is used. So to compensate the amount of high leakage reactance, what we do? We operate this one at low frequencies, that such as 10 kHz. So coming to the advantages or features of this direct core type induction motor, direct core type induction heating method, heating furnace. So the melting is rapid and clean in this type of induction furnace. So the charge is capable of accurate control. So we can accurately control the temperature inside this furnace. Why? Because the supply is in our hands, right? So frequency, we can vary the frequency or we can vary the supply we are giving to the iron core, so that the amount of current induced in the secondaries will be controllable, so that the temperature of the charge to be heated is controllable, right? So this provides a very greater uniformity of the charge to be heated. These are the main features of direct core type induction furnace, right? Now coming to the drawbacks. So we have already seen at the point that as the magnetic coupling between the primary and secondary is not strong, so that leakage reactance is high. So due to poor magnetic coupling, leakage reactance is high and low power factor is low. Also, there is a need for motor generator set or frequency converter for low frequencies, as normal frequencies causes turbulence of the charge. What is turbulence of the charge? So if you operate this, we have already noticed that it is operated at 10 Hz, that is very low frequency. So to compensate that high leakage reactance, right? So to generate this, to run this furnace at a low frequencies is also a challenge, right? To achieve these low frequencies, we need a motor generator set or a frequency converter. Why? Because if you run this at normal frequencies, it causes turbulence of the charge, right? So this is one of the drawbacks of direct core type induction furnace. So also need for molten charge before starting the furnace, right? There must be initially a charge before the starting, or we should not completely remove the charge after required heating is done for the previous previous running. So it is not suitable for intermittent services. Also, it suffers from pinching effect. What is this pinching effect? Let us see now. See, pinching effect is defined as the contraction of the cross section of the liquid conductor through which current is passing, the contraction being due to an electromagnetic force which acts from circumference to the center. So this pinching effect is nothing but when some electromagnetic force is flown through a molten material or liquid material, what it does is the liquid present or the liquid which undergoes this electromagnetic force, it undergoes a contraction. That means it comes to nearer part. So that a contraction across the cross section of the liquid happens, which forces the molten material to be closer. That means its area becomes less. So that force acts from the circumference to the center. So that effect is called the pinching effect, right? So this pinching effect comes into picture in direct core type induction heating or induction furnace when the current density is greater than 500 amperes per centimeters square. So if the current density is greater than 500 amperes per centimeter square, then the current flowing around the metal or around the liquid interacts with the alternating magnetic field and exerts some forces on the cross section of the metal, which may squeeze the extent that a complete interruption of the secondary circuit takes place, right? So the contraction may be such that there is no connection between this iron core. That means the current cannot pass through this iron core to this charge. So to that extent, these electromagnetic forces may be acting upon this molten material. So that effect is called the pinching effect when during only high current densities which are greater than 500 amperes per centimeter square. So this pinching effect depends upon either frequency and power consumed by the source. Pinching effect depends upon both frequency as well as power consumed. So these are the drawbacks of direct core type induction furnace. So next, vertical core type induction furnace. So this vertical core type induction furnace is also called as Ajax-Watt furnace. So due to the different drawbacks of direct core type induction furnace, they are impractical, not used nowadays because of all its drawbacks. So that now vertical core type induction furnace are coming into picture. So this is how a vertical core type induction furnace is can be seen here. So this has a vertical core instead of the horizontal one as in the previous case, right? This makes use of a vertical core instead of the horizontal one for the charge. See, you can see the charge right here. You can place the charge. Also, the shell of the furnace is made up of heavy steel. The shell, this is what is made up of steel, right? So the top is closed, right? See, this is the insulator which closes the top. This can be removed for charging also, and this is removable one. So now coming to molten metal, so is kept here. You can see this one dotted one is kept circulated around this V1. This will be always circulated in this V-shaped one by convection currents. Due to convection, this will be always moving. So this provides convenient stirring action so that the complete molten metal will be equally heated, right? So you can see the V is very narrow so that even a small quantity of charge keeps the secondary circuits closed. So the main drawback in the direct core type was, so it must be always maintained with some amount of molten material, right? Or the secondary, for the secondary to be short circuited. Here very small amount of charge is sufficient to keep the secondary circuit closed, right? The output of this furnace depends upon the form and dimension of the channel. So how far the dimension is, according to that the output depends, right? So not only V shape, there are different types of shapes employed, that is like U shape, rectangular shape and all. Nowadays improvements are being made according to the advantages, right? So the tendency of the secondary circuit to rupture due to pinch effect is contracted by the weight of the charge in the crucible, right? On what factors that it depends? That is depending upon the amount of how much amount of charge is present in the crucible. Crucible is nothing but the amount of place available for the charge, right? So here also pinching effect is available, but it depends upon how much amount of charge is present in the induction furnace, right? Now, and the type of lining, this is what the lining is shown in the dark. So it depends upon the type of charge, which type of charge you are going to be heated. On that, the type of lining is depending. So this kind of furnace is suitable for continuous operation. So here is an opening provided to remove the heated part of the charge from the induction furnace. You can tilt this furnace, to pour this charge outside by some hydraulic means. It will be tilted and the molten charge is flown outside. So this provides a continuous operation. So coming to the power factor of this kind of vertical core type furnace, so its power factor is about 0.8 to 0.85, right? So coming to the efficiency, at normal supply frequencies it can give up to 75% efficiency. Coming to standard size of vertical core type induction furnace, it varies from 60 to 300 kilowatt for all single phase applications, right? Single phase is given. So this kind of furnace is mainly used for melting of metals as well as refining of brass. Right? So coming to the advantages of Ajax-Watt furnace. So this Ajax-Watt furnace is consistent performance and simple control. So there is no losses, no much amount of loss of heat energy is done in this type of vertical core type induction furnace. So its controlling mechanism is also very simple. There is no need of skilled labor for operating of this kind of induction furnace, right? So by using this induction furnace, accurate temperature control can be achieved and metal losses are also very less. That means complete amount of metal given for the heating, it can be, see, the efficiency is almost 75%, which is very higher than when compared to the other types of induction furnace, right? So comparatively high power factor when compared to the previous one, that is direct core type induction furnace. Also, it is highly efficient heat, low operating cost, as well as improved production. These all are dependent one upon another, right? Efficient heat production is there. That means it implies with low operating cost, which implies improved production, right? So there is no crucibles forming in this type of induction furnace. Crucibles are nothing but the depositants at the edges of this core. So that is nothing but loss of metal in such form. So in this type of vertical core type induction furnace, there is no formation of crucibles. Also, there are no combustion gases. So combustion gases is also nothing but one form of loss or not. So due to the decomposition of the charge, there may be combustion of gases, but here no such formation. So this results in elimination of the metal contamination, right? Due to the gases, the metals may be contaminated. As there are no combustion gases, there is no contamination of metal. So these can be discussed as the advantages of vertical core type induction furnace. Next is indirect core type induction furnace. So this is the scheme of indirect core type construction of this type of induction furnace. So in this type of furnace, the material to be heated is heated by induction. So actually induction happens in turn, which transfers the heat to the charge by radiation. So heat transfer to the charge is done by radiation, but by induction, right? So this is a construction scheme for indirect core type induction furnace. The secondary consists of a metal container. This is a metal container which forms the walls of the furnace. So these are the walls of the furnace, which is made up of some kind of metal. So the primary winding, so this is the primary winding, is coupled to the magnetically coupled to the secondary with the help of this iron core, which is shown here, right? So when the primary is supplied with an AC supply, secondary current is induced in the metal. So with the help of transformer action, so due to which the container, this metal container, is heated up. So the metal container transfers this heat to the charge which is present within that, right? So we can say that we can clearly control the temperature without the use of any external source, as transformer action is taking place. As we can control the amount of supply whichever we are giving to the primary, we can tell that we can control accurately the temperature to which the charge is to be heated, right? So this part LM is nothing but a magnetic circuit which is situated inside the oven, right? It consists of a special kind of alloy with some magnetic properties, so which at a particular temperature it loses its magnetic properties, but it is designed in such a way that when you cool down it regains its properties, right? So you can replace this LM, this chamber, metal chamber. So for different kinds of charge you can use different kinds of metal bodies, right, which have its properties such that which can regain its magnetic properties at different critical temperatures, right? So what happens is, as soon as this chamber attains the critical temperature, reluctance of this magnetic circuit increases. Thereby what does it do? It cut off the supply from heat, right? So why? Because it no longer acts as the magnetic circuit, right? It loses its magnetic property, so that it forms a connection between the primary and secondary or not. Now the primary and secondary connection is lost. No, so this is how it is transferring the heat from the core to the charge to be heated, right? If you want to use this metal for heating different different molten material inside or different charge inside, replace this Lm with a different metal which attains critical temperature at some other point, right? So this is how the indirect core type induction furnace will be working, right? In this kind of indirect core type induction furnace, temperature can be automatically controlled. Now coming to coreless type or high frequency induction furnace. So this is the constructional structure of coreless or high frequency induction furnace. So this essentially consists of three major parts, that is a primary coil or primary winding. This is a primary winding. Ceramic crucible with a charge. This is the ceramic crucible. This one is a ceramic crucible. It acts as a secondary with charge inside it. And the frame in which all of this setup is placed, which consists of supports and tilting mechanism for removal of charge from the furnace. So these are the three major parts of coreless induction furnace, right? Coming to the working principle, when the charge is put inside inside the furnace and AC is provided to the primary winding, high frequency AC is provided to the primary winding, the flux created will set up eddy currents in the charge which tend to flow concentrically inside the charge, right? It flows concentrically inside the charge. These eddy currents heat up the charge to its melting point and due to the electromagnetic forces produced during stirring action. Stirring action happens inside this for the achievement of uniform quality of the metal, right? So since the flux density is very low, why flux density is very low? Because of the absence of magnetic core. If magnetic core was present, then flux density would be high. But here there is no magnetic core, the flux density is low, high frequency supply has to be used because eddy current losses, we know eddy current losses will be proportional to what? B square F square or not. So if frequency is high, eddy current losses are high, it is nothing but the form of charge, the form of loss that is converted into heat, right? So to achieve this high eddy current losses, the frequency it is to be operated at high frequencies. But what happens at high frequencies? The resistance of the primary winding also increases due to skin effect comes into picture, right? Due to skin effect, the resistance increases. So which increases primary copper loss. Right? So to reduce this primary copper loss, the amount of copper used should be minimum. So this is why the primary winding is not made up of copper wire, but instead hollow copper tubes are used in place of copper wires, which are cooled continuously through that copper tubes. Water will be circulating through them, so to maintain the temperature of these hollow copper tubes, right? Now, as a magnetic coupling between the primary and the secondary winding is very low, the furnace power factor is also very low. Low power factor, very low power factor, that is it consists of only up to 0.1 to 0.3 only. So to improve this value of the power factor, static capacitors are used. Static capacitors are used in parallel with these furnaces in order to improve that power factor. As this type of furnaces, the power factor is not constant, so the capacitance in the circuit is continuously varied to maintain the power factor unity. So static capacitors are used, but to maintain the power factor at unity, this capacitance must be continuously varied, as this is not constant. Power factor is not constant. To maintain this one constant, the capacitance value is continuously varied. Now coming to the advantages of coreless type induction furnace, so it is very fast operation, as because directly the amount of heat produced in the primary is getting transferred to the secondary, that is charged, and due to uniform stirring action, the charge is getting equally heated, and the operation of the furnace is very fast. And also low erection cost. See, the construction is also simple, it does not contain any complex circuits, so erection cost low, and also operating cost is also low. So this is suitable for intermittent operations. Also this type of furnace is free from smoke, dirt, dust and noise. Also the melting time of a particular metal in this kind of furnace is very low. So we can have precise control over the power to be supplied to this kind of furnace. So this can be talked as the advantages of core type induction furnaces. Now coming to the applications of high frequency induction furnace, these kind of furnaces are used for steel production, melting of non-ferrous metals along with various alloys. This is suitable for non-ferrous metals. Why? So because of the presence of only eddy currents. So eddy currents formed here, we have seen in the last case that eddy currents comes into picture. So in case of non-ferrous metals, so this is suitable for melting of non-ferrous metals according to also along with the various alloys found with these non-ferrous metals. So this is also suitable for vacuum melting and also melting in controlled atmosphere. This is also used for electronic industry as well as industrial activities like soldering, brazing, hardening and annealing. So for such type of applications, this coreless type or high frequency induction furnace is suitable. So this is all about different kinds of induction furnaces. Hope you are clear with the concepts. Thank you.